Are you wearing a temporary mask or a permanent one? Welcome to the Daily Devo. I am Vince Miller. This week we're in chapter 21 of 1 Samuel. I've titled this chapter, Man on the Run. So yesterday, David ran to Gath, the former home of Goliath, with Goliath's sword in hand. The King of Gath realizes that David is there, and so let's see what David decides to do next in verses 12 through 15. And David took these words to heart and was much afraid of Achish, the king of Gath. So he changed his behavior before them and pretended to be insane in their hands and made marks on the doors of the gate and let spittle run down his beard. Then Achish said to his servants, "Behold, you see, the man is mad. Why then have you brought him to me? Do I lack madmen?" Sounds like he's got a bunch of crazy people in his empire. "That you have brought this fellow to behave as a madman in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house?" Boy. So we discovered that David is not just a shepherd and a poet, a musician and a lover and a warrior, but also an actor. I mean, really? Is there anything that David cannot do? And it's unbelievable, or maybe it's very believable. He drools on himself, writes some graffiti on the walls of the city, and the king falls for it. David is labeled a madman. And I assume that since he had seen King Saul act like a madman and got away with it, maybe he assumed that he could get away with it too. I don't really know for sure, but it worked. But what captured my attention today is the stark contrast between Saul's tactics in Gibeah and David's tactics in Gath. Saul surrounds himself with sanity to hide his insanity, and David uses his insanity to hide his sanity. And for some reason, Achish's pronouncement of his insanity provides him with temporary safety until he can escape to the next location. Now, occasionally, very, 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 very rarely, wearing a temporary mask is necessary in life-threatening situations. Enemies surrounded David. Therefore, temporary pretending was needed to preserve his life. The problem is that many use this tactic as a perpetual means to maintain a persona that is not remotely true. Therefore, their play acting becomes a perpetual lie that they tell to themselves. But this is not true of David. David's act was only temporary. While publicly pretending, he privately anchored his mind and his soul to the truth about God in his word, as we have already discussed in Psalm 34 and Psalm 56. This was not a permanent act by David, only temporary until he found his means of escape. So, if you must wear a mask as a temporary shield against an enemy, do so very sparingly. Don't fake it until you make it and then continue with the act only to become a fake. Don't fake it till you make it and then become a fake. And since this is usually not needed, just stop pretending, be authentic, take off the mask, and trust in God. I love you, brother. Pray this has blessed you today. If it has, share it with someone else, and I'll see you right back here again.